Hello, dear friends. Here we are, 40 nights with the Promised Consoler. I'm Vanessa Anceloni for those who know us, who don't know us, right? And we are here. This is day 26, chapter 31st of the book Luz Acima. And this book is not yet in English, but there's some chapters coming out right here for you. The title is The Greatest Enemies, and we have kept it because this lesson is simply striking. Yes, it is. You know, the greatest enemies, where are they? We need to know. Many people are looking for the enemies. How many people, right? Thank you, Karen Mark, for double checking the system for us. If you can keep for longer, we are going to be grateful because there is an issue here we're trying to fix. Thank you so much, friends. Now, let us not forget the greatest enemies here. Many people, when something goes wrong, they feel like somebody is doing, some works for us, etc. What do we do? Da-da-da. So the question here is, where are these enemies? Do you know? Do you want to know? Where is it? Let's search for them. Not so much. And I say this not so much because we should seek the good. And as Cara Correa said once to me, it's like, God is in the good. So when we seek the good, we find God. When we seek the good, we find God. It's too good to be true. Can't take my heart off of you. La da da da. I wanna hold you so much. That's a song for God. Shall we? Yes? Yes. To God and for God, that's how we feel. It's too good to be true. Yeah, when we read about Jesus' words, what he said about God, that's the feeling we get. He's too good to be true, but he's God, so it is. It is what it is, right? Can't take my heart off of you. Right, friends? So let us rejoice. We're going to read it. But first, we're going to say hi to Luciana. Hello, Luciana. 20 Sunshine, right? Tanya, how are you? I love singing for you. For some reason, the mentors, the good spirits, they just say, go ahead, we can do it, why not? Elisete Cunha, Enilda, hello Enilda, how are you? Katia, how are you, Katia? It's great to have you here, friends. My dear friend Shane and the spirit side of Richmond, here we are. Lea Severo, Julija, how are you, Julija? Ceissa, how are you? Friends, we have everybody here from east to west, south, north, and other beautiful continents. We feel so integrated. Andrea Torres, Andrea, Solange, Margaret, each one of you is a spark of light, not only in the universe, but mostly shining in your neighborhood, in your area, and Rosalind Rosa. And let us visualize a beautiful map of the world and all of us connected in these beautiful bridges of light. By the way, the United States Spiritist Federation has just launched the National Day of Spiritism. National Day of Spiritism, April 18th, 2017. And as per their recommendation, Jussara told me, and all of us in the United States, we're gonna dedicate that day to service, spiritual service. So Kardec Radio is going to dedicate the whole day, 24 hours of messages and prayers, believe it or not, from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. The whole day. You're invited to join. All you need to do is record your prayer, your message, no longer than 15 minutes. Send it to kardecradio@gmail.com. We're going to edit everything and stream 24 hours. Through Enilda here, I know Enilda, you and the friends in Atlanta, it just came to me that maybe the Spiritist Radio, Kardec Radio can share the files and we can stream in both radios. I don't know. Just came to me, Jussara. How about that? Teamwork. Kardec Radio with the Spiritist Radio together in this beautiful unity to pray. Okay? And if you want to participate, you, Tanya, you, Greg, you're welcome. Okay? You're welcome. Right? Right, Enilda? The unity, friends. We are together in these critical times. Right? We can share the files and let's talk about it. We can create one Dropbox for the very reason, specifically for this, and we have access. Everybody puts it there, and we can go further like this. Okay? Thank you, friends. The good ideas always come from God. I think God really liked that we're singing. I'm sorry. No, God is not human, so this is just us, right? But of course, God rejoices because God is in us. If you rejoice, God does too, right? And Melissa, and Adilson, and Angelita, all of us together, right, Solange? Let's talk about it, Enilda. Can I ask you to be the spokesperson so we can be in touch with the friends? Thank you. Thank you, Jussara, for the beautiful idea, okay? And another thing, the symposium in Orlando. You know the campaign. On the very day of the National Day of Spiritism, April 18th, we're closing the campaign for 2 people who'll be winning the flight, the airline tickets to go to Orlando. Come on, guys. Send your videos. Just answer to 2 questions. Why you like Kardec Radio? And why is God? What do you think about the justice behind the divine concept of reincarnation? Shall we, friend? Yeah? You can win it. And Leia Severi saying, a new Spiritist center is coming in Orlando, Kissimmee, April 29th. I am praying that the center is in English. Because as Divaldo Franco has been saying, we need it to be in English. Right, Leia Severo? You're going to be there? God bless you, guys. God bless you. Okay? Yes. So Greg, Tanya is saying that Greg said to send a prayer to his email. Okay. All right, friend. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Leia. It's going to be in English? Mamma mia. Don't make me cry. Don't cry for me, Argentina. I'm going to cry for you. Orlando, kiss me. Cry. Tears of joy. Okay? Now, on the serious note now. We're too funny now, but not too funny. We're just joyful. Good news bring us joy. What can we do? We can't help it but to rejoice. And we're going to rejoice trying to find it. Right? Find what? The greatest enemies. Where are they? Ready? One day, Simon Peter asked Jesus, Lord, how will I know where our greatest enemies live? I want to fight them in order to work effectively for the kingdom of God. They were on their way between Capernaum and Magdala, under the shining sun of a fragrant morning. The Master listened and plunged himself into a long meditation. Pause. Let's observe the lesson here, okay? The nonverbal. Peter is a disciple. Jesus is a master. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Mark, from the bottom of our hearts to double checking the system for us. Now, Peter comes and asks a very important question. And what does Jesus do? He listened. He kept himself quiet. In a long meditation, the question for us is, why was Jesus quiet and not answering the question right away? Why? Is he thinking of the answer? We don't think so. As the excellent educator, he knows the answer before Peter started asking the question. So why was he in the inner of himself while Peter was waiting for the answer? Because as a good educator, he gives, exactly, Carol is saying, to give us a chance to reflect. Why? Because when we think of it more deeply, we're more permeable for the answer. This distance between the apparent gap between an answer, a question and an answer, can create permeability in the soul. So Jesus is giving time for Peter to be ready for the answer, while observing nature. Observe that he's saying he was going from Capernaum to Magdala. And I know there's a psychological meaning to it, but we're going to go straight to under the shining sun of a fragrant morning. The shining sun of the truth, with the sweetness of the fragrance of the morning. So it was not midday. It was not like a striking truth. It's like coming with the right dose of truth, not to hurt. Now let us observe what happened next. The Master listened and plunged himself into long meditation. But the disciple, Simon Peter, insisted. He replied then Jesus replied with benevolence. Benevolence is with goodwill. Bene, good. Volens, will. It's goodwill. He was waiting to have Peter prepared for the beginning of the education, for the process of the lesson, the learning, and with goodwill. A master that has goodwill, friends. The master of all masters. Because sometimes, coming from academia, we often see the people who, the higher they go in their academic status, the less goodwill they have to educate. Believe it or not. Because science is most often connected to research, not so much to teaching. And when it comes to teaching, it has that feeling of superiority, of somebody who is higher and the students who are lower. But Jesus never looked down on anybody. And through the descriptions of the body language, the tone, the way he replied, we learn a different way of educating. One that comes and looks as Euripides Barçanufo, the educator, the spiritist educator who created the first spiritist school on the earth, inspired by Jesus, inspired by Kardec, Mother Mary. He said we needed to be same level with the student, so the student feels empowered. A pause here. See many children in the world nowadays that they are having a serious problem in their self-esteem that is being formed because both parents and educators, they look down on them. Parents may love them, and even educators may like their students, but they feel superior to the students, as parents feel superior to their children. Spiritism, once and for all, rescues the foundation of this rapport of education, which shall be soul to soul, spirit to spirit. I don't feel I'm more than the spirit connected to the body of this child. The body may be developing, but the spirit is millennial. And as the Spirit said to Kardec, publishing the Spirit's book, it's very likely that the children are more evolved than us. But we don't give them what we would like to receive. Because if we thought about, if I were on my child's shoe, what would I like? To spend the whole day in a school amongst people who don't care that much about me? Dividing attention with 1,000 people who have poor education in regards to character formation? Or would I like to be sometime in school, but at least half of my day or 2/3 of my day, the day we are awakened with somebody who really cares about my education in regards to character formation? Who is entitled or in the mission of giving the elements for the formation of the character? Parents first. We can't expect our teachers in school to teach kindness, respect, reverence, niceness, etc. It's on us, not on them. They can keep an eye, but it's on us to instruct. But we can only do this if we give them what we would like to receive. And as Carol Correa is emphasizing, mothers are mothers. There are no substitutes. Fathers are fathers. That's how we restore the foundation of our society. Let's begin from the beginning. Kardec said, character formation. Okay? So Jesus is good-willed. He looks at Peter and he never takes for granted an opportunity to plant seeds that are going to grow. And today, he is talking to us. He says, experience reveals everything at the right time. And Peter, Simon, exclaimed impatiently, "Oh, the experience takes too long." Like a child. Adorable, by the way. The divine friend, clarified, imperturbable. See, when Humberto de Campos is referring to Jesus here as the divine friend, he is also telling us that that's the way Jesus behaved and still interacts with us. It's a true friendship. You know, there are days when we ask ourselves, who is my true friend? Who is my true friend? One thing we can tell, Jesus is your true friend because it's a divine friend. He's a divine friend. A friend because he gives love without demanding anything. He's always goodwill. We need to inspire in him so we can be better friends. How good of a friend are you to the people in your life? Let me ask myself too. This is a therapeutic moment. Scale of 0 to 10. 0 like bad friend. 10, excellent friend. In this scale of true friendship, the friendship that we're aiming at to be a divine friend for people in our lives, how good are we, friends? Let's rate it. Because how good people are to us in regards to friendship doesn't matter. But how good we are as friends to them. Truly, it's a very vital question. How good of a friend? 0 to 10. 0 to 10. Don't answer to me, please. Hello, Rihanna. Beautiful Rihanna. Thank you for being here with us from South Africa. Let's not forget, we're receiving the donations and the books, and we are very, very grateful. Now, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, an hour is sometimes enough to learn unforgettable lessons. But we need to be mindful. When Jesus is saying, eyes to see, ears to hear, he's saying, let us be mindful. Let us observe there is no chance in the universe. There's no chance. Everything has a reason. We are like magnets. Magnets. Thought is life. I emit and I attract. Law of the mental field. I attract what I have emitted, because thought is a mental electromagnetic force. Mental reflexes, and then I manifest what I have created. We're no victims to the assaults of the spirits, to the assaults of anybody, because we are in the same boat we have constructed together. Some people tell me, Vanessa, I don't belong to this world. What am I doing on this earth? As far as I know, we are where we have to be, where we need to be, at the very school we need to be. God has never enrolled us in the wrong school. He enrolled us in the best school in the universe that we need at this time. There's no mistake. So let's deepen our understanding. Chapter 10 of the book Thought and Life. Now, Peter fell silent. He was like frustrated, disenchanted. But you know, Jesus is a prophet. And he said, in an hour. And before he could return to the question, listen to this. Peter noticed that someone was sneaking behind old fig trees that were on the banks of the water. Peter grew pale and forced the master to stop, declaring that the stranger was a Pharisee who sought to assassinate him. With harsh words, Peter challenged the anonymous traveler to turn away, threatening him with a heavy irritation. And when he tried to catch the stranger forcefully, a joyful laughter sounded in the air. The assumption, though, was unfair. Instead of a Pharisee, it was Andrew, his own brother, Peter's brother, who actually appeared smiling and joined the small group. When we have this feeling of being persecuted, of being, sought after, we may go a little bit schizophrenic at times, thinking that the people who are closest to us are the enemies. And we find out it was just Peter's brother. It's kind of funny in a way, right? But it's true. It's a true account. And Jesus, he manifests himself expressively to Simon and acquiesced. Peter, never forget that fear is a terrible opponent. And we're living at a time in which people are trying to create this fear in us. Fear of being an immigrant, fear of being of different religions, fear of being certain nationalities and not others. Fear, fear, fear. You know, when fear knocks on the door, what we say? No, thank you. That's what we teach children. When they don't want something, they say no, thank you. So they knock on the door, say no, thank you. Don't even open. Look and say, fear, not today, please. Just go. Yes, no Solar, our home, André Luiz through Chico Xavier brings the very message. Fear is the most contagious emotion. And that's why Jesus brought to us this lesson firsthand. Is a terrible opponent. If somebody in your life is feeling afraid, breathe in and out. What do? Breathe in and out. And you know, like the movie Monsters, Inc., open the door. Say, fear, you're there, come here. And it's not too big. Sometimes it's like a bug. When we face it, it looks small. And we say, no, thank you. Not here, not now. Courage. That's why Jesus said one of the trademarks of the disciple is joy, courage, and faith. Courage, the counterpart. Love, the counterpart. Now, the group continued the journey, remember, from Capernaum to Magdala. And they hadn't advanced much when they saw a Levite who recited passages of the Torah and spoke to them less respectfully. Simon swelled with wrath. He reacted, argued, far from the notions of fraternal tolerance, until the interlocutor fled frightened. The master, remember, Jesus is teaching us. The master, who was then silent, fixed the apprentice with very lucid eyes and inquired. Observe this. Remember Professor Eurípides Barçanufo? He taught us something he learned with Jesus. Look in the eyes of the apprentice with goodwill, with lucidity, discernment, light, and ask, Peter, what is the first obligation of the person who is searching for the celestial kingdom? That's a quiz for you and I. What is it? The first duty of those who are like us, searching for the celestial kingdom. What is our first duty? What do we need to do? The answer of Peter came clear and brief. To love God above all things and the neighbor as oneself. To love God above all things. Meaning, if a loved one dies, God, you know how I feel, but teach me, because I trust in you. I love you. To love God also means to obey God. How obedient are we, friends? In the Gospel according to Spiritism, we learn obedience is the consent of reason. But you know, the world has a huge problem nowadays because we have a hard time being disciplined and obedient. Many people have this aversion to obedience. And Joana de Angelis says, those who cannot obey cannot lead. But how obedient are we to God? You know, no wonder people feel abandoned, orphans, orphan of God, because they don't want to follow through. It's like you run away from God, like, oh, I feel abandoned. But I distance myself because I want to create my own rules. And we think that the President of the United States is the only person in the world who is creating his own rules. All of us. We're very alike. He's mirror image of the collective. Forgive me for saying this, no offense, but we know that we have the leaders that we have created, the collective, and this is the one. Oh, but I didn't vote. Yeah, you didn't vote. I didn't vote either. But how much of that behavior do I also have in my life? Creating my own rules. I don't respect the traffic laws. I don't respect the rules at my work. I don't even respect the agreements in my household, in my family. I am simply an outlaw in my life, creating my own laws, leading an hedonistic life, pleasure after pleasure, only stimulating the physical senses. It's no different. So Jesus is asking us, what is the first duty to find the celestial kingdom? To love God. And to love God is to worship God, fulfill God's will, know God's will. So we need to have that obedience by reasoning. Feeling God and saying every day, seeking the good, which is seeking God, and saying, God, what do you want me to do? In this scenario, you know. What is it? Because you don't force anybody to do anything, but you have laws. I want to follow through. I want to comply. How can I be more obedient? And we in Spiritism, we learned that the true faith is the one when we align reasoning to faith. And reasoning, when it's boosted, it gives us the feeling of obedience. Like Chico Xavier. He was a healing medium too. And Emmanuel said, Chico, enough. Let's channel it to writing these books. The mediumistic writing. And what happened? What did he do? But come on, Emmanuel. Don't you know that if we do healing services, people are going to come and they are going to surrender themselves to Spiritism much faster? He didn't say anything. He didn't argue. He said, yes, Emmanuel. And today, because of his obedience, the consent of his reasoning, the resignation, which is the consent of his heart, the surrender, we're here together, healing our souls. Is it worthwhile being obedient? You stimulate new life all around. Well, have you, and then Christ continued calmly. See, he has goodwill, he's calm. That's the master. Calmly. Peter, have you observed the sublime rule in this conflict? Remember that first of all, our help is indispensable to those who ignore the true good. Do not forget that anger is a cruel persecutor. Fear, anger. Anger is like a pet. You know, have you watched the movie Despicable Me? Yes? No? If you don't, watch it. It's worthwhile. It's for adults too. I watched that way before Virginia was born. In that movie, there's a little dog. I forgot the name. But he's like the portrait of anger. He's always like, he doesn't look good. And he's always there, you know, when you need the least, he's around. He doesn't help, only creates problems. It's the little dog. It's like anger. It's a pet, because you know the reality is we have that pet with us. He's around. And when he sees things that are strange, he starts barking or biting, and he can create a mess. When we go to the Gospel according to Spiritism, there are beautiful spirit messages talking about what to do when we feel anger. The best and first step is to be aware. Do you feel anger at all? Are you at times angry? How often in an average day do you get angry? I do get angry. The closest people to me, they know it's a pet in my life that I am taming. I'm saying, look, cool down. That's not needed. Don't bark that much. It's okay. People are our friends. Okay? They make strange noises, etc. You may not like, but hold on. What do you do to your anger? Do you acknowledge it? If you do, what do you do next? How do you domesticate this anger? Because anger comes, scientifically speaking, as a byproduct of an instinct of preservation. Animals feel anger, but they are not aware of it. In their case, it's the byproduct of the true instinct of preservation. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, we're going to learn that anger is actually the byproduct of a hurt pride, the spirits say, wounded ego, wounded pride. And then we start giving fuel to anger. So we need to go one step back and say, you know, this is not personal. I don't need to get there. And today Mentor Joseph was giving this analogy of a beautiful rose and a thorn. How often you're close to a thorn, a rose, you want to pick it up and you hurt yourself because of the thorns. And you feel angry. But he said, look at the rose and say, you're so beautiful. Why do you hurt me? The rose cannot reply because the rose doesn't do on purpose. As Jesus taught us in the ultimate lesson, we don't know what we're doing. And people are like roses, the flowers, divine, beautiful, but we have thorns. And when people get too close, they feel the pinching of our thorns, the roughness we have inside of us because of our instinct of preservation. That's why we need to forgive each other 70 times, 7 times. So next time we see somebody who hurts us, visualize the rose and tell the person, you are divine rose. You didn't know what you were doing, that your thorns were hurting me. And even if you thought you did it purposefully, still you didn't know what you were doing. Like when they were crucifying Jesus, actually they were projecting their shortcomings, willing to crush it. And they crushed Jesus. Now we know. But that's a true exercise for us. Look at the people in our lives who hurt us and say, you are a beautiful divine rose in my life. You bring me perfume. You bring me beauty and harmony. But your thorns also hurt me. I'm going to be more careful not to be hurt by your thorns. It's my carelessness that makes me feel hurt. Let's think about this analogy. We'll be taming our anger more easily. A few more steps. And they met a Greek Jew who used to sell perfumes. Talking about roses, perfumes. Theophrastus, who reported on Zechonius, a leper healed by the Nazarene prophet and who fled to Jerusalem, where he accused the Messiah with false allegations. The fisherman could not help himself. He shouted that Zechonius was an ungrateful man. He outlined Jesus' benefits that he rendered to Zechonius and entered in a long and bitter commentary, cursing Zechonius' name. The beauty of it all is that Peter was who he was in front of Jesus. Jesus is such a beautiful friend that Peter just felt like being himself. And it's a way for you and I to feel more comfortable in Jesus' presence, because he's constantly connected to us. Constantly. He has a monitor on each one of us. You know, like baby monitors? Jesus has baby monitors on us. You can say, hi, Jesus. He knows. He knows. So feel comfortable. As Carol Correa is saying, it's an authentic relationship. True. Thank you, Carol. And finally, the Christ asked Peter, Peter, how many times will you forgive your brother? Up to 70 times 7, replied the apostle humbly. He's cute. He's learning. He's willing to learn, friends. I'm willing to learn, you too. And now the celestial friend contemplated Peter calmly and finished. You see, Jesus teaches us with so much calmness, so much goodwill, teaching us educators how to do the same. Hardness is an executioner of the soul. We cannot be hard on other people. And they had not crossed a great distance when they encountered an old semi-paralyzed Roman named Rufus Gracchus, who smiled sarcastically from the top of the ladder, sustained by strong slaves. Picture it, the slaves holding the man, semi-paralyzed, and he's sarcastic. And Peter focused on the sarcastic gesture. He spoke his mind without dissimulation, without disguising anything. I wish to heal that unrepentant sinner in order to bend his heart to God. I love Peter because he's the expression of us. But Jesus touched his shoulder and said, now observe this, touched the shoulder. Emotional body language, non-verbal lessons that go deep in the feeling process. Touched the shoulder and said, why, Peter, would we institute violence in the world if the Father never imposed himself on anyone? And there are parents who want to tell me and others that children will learn faster if you spank them a little bit. There's no little bit. For Jesus, there is no spanking in any way. Zero violence. Zero, zero. But some people, Vanessa, no, zero violence. No violence. God, the so powerful, is never violent. Everything's smooth with God. Right, Rihanna? She's saying this lesson is just for me. My neighbors killing my cats, choosing them, and catching them and killing them, and still we try to send love and goodwill. It's hard. Now your neighbor has our whole community praying for him or her, okay? Rihanna, thank you for sharing. Friends, let's pray together that the neighbor of Rihanna feels more at peace and that the cats be protected. Somebody is deeply wounded to be willing to kill. May God and the good spirits and the spirit doctors kindly, and we say this humbly because who are we? But it's an honest plea, right? Earnest. God, please visit Rihanna's neighbor to protect them from themselves, the cats, and everyone else. Thank you, Rihanna. And to his disgruntled companion, Jesus concluded, vanity is a subtle executioner. Vanity. So, fear, anger, right? Fear, anger, hardness, vanity. Vanity. Vanity is a byproduct of this pride, ego that we talk about. When we think we have something that others don't, that we're more than others, it's a combination of all these feelings. How often we feel it? Vanity. Subtle execution. Subtle. After a few minutes, they arrived at the modest inn by Aminadab, a follower of the new ideas, in order to have a light meal. They are there eating at the table. Zacchaeus, the freed from Caesarea, began to comment on the political events of the time. He pointed out the mistakes and the misdeeds of the imperial court, to which Simon corresponded, collaborating in the verbalistic pruning. Dignitaries and philosophers, administrators and artists from overseas have been hit hard by it. Tiberius was invoked through merciless criticisms, recriminations. So imagine this man talking about the government, right? The politics, the politicians. Oh, so fitting for today's world. And after the lively talk, Jesus asked the disciple if he had ever been to Rome. The clarification came quickly. No, never. Then the Christ smiled and observed, Peter, you spoke with such conviction about the emperor that to me it looked like you were in the presence of someone who had been, that I was in the presence of someone who had been that close, that in close contact with the emperor. Then he added, let us be convinced that slander is something terrible. But people say, but Vanessa, we know people are doing wrong, right? But what do we really know? How much do we really know regarding the truth? If somebody tries to talk about your life, do they really know what's going on in your mind? No. Are they going to be faithful to you? Even the closest people. Sometimes the people who live under our roof, they don't know the color that we like the most, the food that we like the most, what are our most intimate thoughts. They don't. Think about the people in your life. Question, what is the color they like the most? And I say color because we're visual beings. We have preferences. And we live in a visual world. So, what is the color that the people in your life like the most? What are their most recurrent thoughts? And any other question we may ask? Let us think about this, friends. Slander. Oh, Vanessa, I don't slander. How often we talk about things not knowing what's on the behind the scenes. The true reasons. Carol Correa likes pink. Me too. And this is not cheesy. It's just a girly thing. Maybe. I don't know. But, summing up. Fear. Anger. Hardness. What else? What else? What else? We got vanity and slander. The fisherman of Capernaum was silent and disconcerted. The master contemplated the exterior landscape, staring at the position of the star of the day, as if consulting time, and turning to the vigilant companion, Jesus kindly highlighted, Peter, an hour ago, you were looking for the location of our greatest opponents. From then on, 5 appeared amongst us. Fear, anger, harshness, vanity, and slander. As you may acknowledge, our worst enemies live in our own hearts. And smiling, Jesus concluded, the greatest war is also to be fought within us. Look at Jesus. The world was chaotic in people's lives at the time, but he was calm, he was benevolent. So the ultimate question, is it possible for us to be in a chaotic world and not be contaminated by it? Yes, Jesus is the role model. How do we get there? Coaching. Who is the personal trainer? Jesus. But we need to attend the gym every day, every hour, every minute, and practice, do the homework. And the main homework and the main exercise we need to do is to love God above all things. And the neighbor as ourselves. This is the main roadmap. If we follow through and we have ears to hear and eyes to see, we're gonna get there. Is it that hard? What is the answer? No. Why? Because Jesus is love, Jesus is light. Everything with Him is much easier. It's much harder to be distant from Him. Right? At the end of our days, all that we say is that it's worthwhile fighting this inner war, that it's worthwhile observing ourselves. Vanity is a critical thing. Many people nowadays are trying to be original. They're trying to be the first. But you know, the only first is God. We're all co-creators. Let us be co-creators with love, light, and joy, and learn our pathway through this beautiful training of the soul that Jesus is promoting to us and for us. And remember, you are on camera too, not only me, because Jesus has a baby monitor on you and on me. Let us say hi to him. Hi, Jesus. Thank you, friends. Rejoice.